Yeah, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight I am joined by the one and only Ryan Eagles. I'm very excited to have Mr. Eagles on. I've wanted to have Ryan on for the longest time, and I'm super excited to have him on. But before we get into our conversation with Mr. Ryan Eagles, let's take a quick second and a quick pause to thank some of those amazing sponsors and help us keep the lights going up in this bitch every single week. First up is healthvape.com. Now, healthvape.com is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they're vitamin infused, guys. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your day. So go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up, guys, is sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS. Now, if you or someone you know is an athlete, Sleeves have got you guys covered. They have all kinds of athletic wear. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those amazing dirty boxes that you always hear me raving about. These dirty boxes are incredible. They stay fresh, they stay dry, and they've got funky designs on the front to keep that special person in your life giggling when the belt buckle comes undone. Woo, we got all that covered, guys. But also, I got to say thank you for joining us on the MWA Podcast Network. Please make sure you go subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. It helps us, branch out there, get more eyes on us, and so we're able to do more exciting things like these shows right here. Guys, make sure you check out Killing the Business, hosted by ECW Original, The Kingpin, and King Mega every single week, breaking down what's going on in the wrestling world. Check out Knights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider, and Cade Lothbrock. And also this show, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. So guys, go and subscribe, like, share, all that good shit. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Ryan fucking Eagles. Ryan Eagles, welcome to Shooting the Shit Uncensored, brother.
Yeah, thank you. That intro was awesome. You stole half my gear, the bald, the beard, and what was the rest of it?
The beautiful.
The beautiful. Yeah, well, no, I wasn't going to say that, but it's good to be on. Thank you.
Man, I've wanted to have you on for the longest time. It's great to finally have you on and have this conversation. It's like I said, I've been wanting to have you on for the longest time, so I'm really excited about this episode. For yourself, we're just talking, sort of before, outside of wrestling, you're also a rugby coach as well, which I find really cool because the fact is, I think most people in wrestling are so focused on wrestling that it's like wrestling is the only thing sports wise that's where they're focused on as far as involvement in. But how did you get involved in the rugby side? Because, you've coached some shoot shield teams. You're now coaching one of the top teams down in Canberra in the ACT. How did coaching and getting involved in rugby start with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I used to be a teacher by trade. I've since got out of that industry, and I somehow sort of ended up coaching one of the rep teams in Sydney Southwest. I was a mediocre player, and I don't mind telling people that. And so, yeah, I got involved in a rep program and went, oh, hang on, if I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be sort of trying to help these kids through, or young men through, I probably should do some stuff to make sure that I'm up to scratch and that I'm good enough. And I, through my ex-father-in-law, I was introduced to a mentor. And then that kind of took me to Randwick. I did some stuff with the under-20s there and did all this sort of rep coaching and kind of the same way that I pursued wrestling, I sort of was that same sort of aggressive nature, and I like to joke, or I like to say that, and I pretty sure it implies that I don't do things in half. So when I was decided I was going to do that pretty seriously, it kind of took over a good chunk of my life and my time and everything else, and to the point where we just moved back from America. I was a bit sort of disheartened that I wasn't over there longer, and I kind of was almost looking for something else to sort of fill that void as well.
Yeah.
So very much, sort of tripped into a gig, and then that became another gig and another gig. And it's taken me, it took me to Canada, and I got to coach over there and do some stuff with their national programs. I've got to do some stuff, like you said, with some shoot shield clubs, and now down in the John Dent and doing some rep stuff for the Brumbies as well. So it's all consuming.
How do you find the time, dude? Because like we're talking, is like you work full time, you've got like a young family as well, football, wrestling. Like, dude, I like just hearing about how your schedule is. I was exhausted just by listening to it. How do you find the time and energy?
Oh, I think the answer is I don't. Lots of coffee during the day, and then trying to, I don't know. There are days where I feel like I'm swamped, and there are days where I find little gaps in my schedule to sort of do stuff. And being best part about sort of leaving teaching and being in a different industry now is I work from home a fair bit, not all the time, but a bit, which means that I can kind of sneak in some family time during the day as well. And then Sunday's kind of my family day, so in between doing film review and other stuff for rugby. So it can be quite a crazy time, but I don't know any other way, sort of thing. So it's just been how I do things, right?
Yeah, no, fair enough, man. And you mentioned you were living over in the US for a little while. How long were you over?
We did a couple of stints. So in 2008, I want to say we were there for, I can't remember now, it's a while ago. It was between 3 and 6 months. And then came back, got green cards, went back again. We were there for about a year. And then through circumstances had to come home. And then that was kind of the end of that stint, I suppose.
Yeah. And was the whole reason to go over there revolved around wrestling and work? Yeah.
Very much so. I still had aspirations. And they're always weird aspirations, right? So at the time, I very much wanted to wrestle in Japan. I got to do that in 2008. And there was invitations along the way to go back and do some stuff, which just wasn't practical, with the young family at the time, and we're having to work full time and do all those sort of things. You got a mortgage, and you got to work out how you're going to go live in a dojo for 6 months. It's just not practical. Yeah, so I didn't get to follow through on those sort of things. But very much was chasing that dream, and little things too, like I suppose. Like I had a dream, not that I was a massive ECW fan, but I appreciated the history around it. And in saying that, I once I sort of got right into wrestling, I went back through and watched everything I could around ECW. And there are bits that I loved, bits that I wasn't quite into. But I appreciated the history of the building. So I wanted to go and wrestle in the ECW arena and say that I was able to do that. So stuff like that. So that was kind of where my mind was at, what my goals were. Got over there, loved it. I was just by coincidence and not by name or anything like that. I'm a massive Philadelphia Eagles fan, so I wanted to go to Philly so I can go to an Eagles game, which I got to do in 2008 as well. So I got to do some cool stuff that was sort of on my bucket list, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like, how was the ECW arena for you? Like when you first walked in there for yourself, like was that like a bit of a surreal moment? Like, you know what I mean? Like, were you marking out internally, just going, "This is some pretty cool shit to see"?
A little bit, and that's going to sound a little bit. I don't know. It was a while ago, but so one of the weird things was both Shikara and CZW actually used to train in that building. So you kind of go in there to train. It's kind of like this weird. There's no chairs. There's no it's all been painted and they've made some alterations into it and stuff. So there was still the history of going into that building, but it wasn't exactly the same as the building I probably had seen on footage for all those years, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
But no, it was, I suppose, any sort of excitement or those things at the time was probably filled, or at least like sort of, covered over by nerves and wanting to make a good impression and trying to get my foot in the door and not wanting to do the wrong things, those sort of things. So I was probably more focused on not fucking up than I was about getting to appreciate the moment, really. So.
Yeah, because I've spoken to a few ECW guys and Angel, who's a friend of mine who wrestled us in the Baldies. He told me, he's like, man, it was a shithole. He goes, like when he came into ECW, he was like, yeah, this is going to be cool, ECW arena. And it's like, wow, this building kind of sucks. He goes, now it's something completely different. He goes, it's beautiful what they've done to it. He goes, but back in the day, he goes, it was a shithole. He goes, no, like none of the boys liked it. He goes, we like the atmosphere. He goes, but like no running hot water, no nothing. It was just like,
I think I got the good end of things, so luckily.
Yeah. But you mentioned going there and training with Chikara and CZW.
Yep. And you also got to train with ROH and stuff like that. It was a great learning experience. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, like CZW and Chikara alone, the people that have gone through that training academy, you know what I mean, gone on to be Hall of Famers and close to Hall of Famers, the top champions in WWE like John Moxley and several others as well. What were some of the the things that you walked away from like being there? Because like you'd already been wrestling for a while, right? So going over to the US, was it like a massive difference between like the US style and the Australian style? Like were they like, holy shit, like what are you doing this? We do it this way here, or was it like, was there any confusion on certain things?
Not really. Yeah, no, not really. So I suppose for me, it was more, and this is going to border on sounding a bit conceited, and I don't mean it to be, but one of the things that sorry, I got distracted by all the writing that just popped up in it as I was trying to form an answer. But one of the things that, no, you can put it up there. I'll just not. Oh,
it was someone that commented. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay, sweet. So thank you for whoever commented. That was great. But I one of the things that I pride myself on when we're running the PWA Academy was to be able to teach all these different styles. And part of that was, like I said, I'd get back and immerse myself in all these different styles, different sort of companies or whatever it was from all these different places and try and teach some of that, because I wanted to, my ambition or goal running that PWA Academy was always about trying to prepare as many different people for as many different opportunities as they could. So I wanted to make sure they could go in and be able to sort of perform it wherever they were. And look, probably the hard part was going into Shikara, and there's some expectations around very, that I was going to say extreme, but that's not right. It's more that sort of a lot of those lucha libre skills, and I'm as soon as my ass gets anywhere close to being up at my head level, like my brain switches off. So I'm not even good at all the flipping stuff and all that. And I've always kind of known that's where my strengths or weaknesses are. But trying to adapt to those sort of things and just having the confidence to try those things probably was where there was some adjustment period for me, but I still loved teaching that style. So like watching that style, all that sort of stuff. And then you'd go and you'd learn stuff at the CZW Academy. I think at the time, Drew Gulak was doing a lot of the trainings. DJ Hyde was there, welcoming me as well. I still got to do it. I was still got to do some cool stuff there. And then you go to the ROH training, and Delirious and Daisy Hayes were running it, and they would do some different ways of doing things as well. So, and I felt like I was able to amalgamate into all of those without, I suppose, excelling, but, still be able to hold my own and not look completely out of place is what touch wood. That's what I hope, that's the impression that I gave when I was there. So,
well, I suppose every trainer is going to be different in the way that how they deliver their training, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And it's like, being taken out of your comfort zone. Like, was there moments where you're like, I don't know about this one? Like, I mean? Like, I don't know about trying to do a 450 off the top rope here, guys. Like, I mean? Like, was that the sort of stuff that they were trying to get you to do, or was it just more of like the lucha sort of style?
Not so much 450s, but there was a lot of run and you roll and you jump up to the top. I'm trying to think now, and then you sort of from there you almost got to like do into a dive roll and some other stuff. And I've completely butchered what the activity that I was doing, but that was sort of the stuff that I was like, yeah. I don't jump that high. I don't get up that. So, but then I'd see guys like we had some Australians come in and out at the same time. So, even guys like Davis, Mark Davis was over at one point. Ash Wright came over at one point. Jesse McKay was with us for a bit. I think even Bonzo came and stayed with us for a little bit when we first moved over there, and I was quite happy to watch them do it, and was proud that they were able to do it. It's just not my forte, if you will. And then you go to ROH, and the first half an hour is doing yoga, which was an interesting experience. Every session. Yeah. At the time, that's what it was. It was first half an hour of every session was you were doing this yoga. Like, mate, you'd be sweating before you even got to the ring, and couldn't work it out why.
Who would be running it? Would they bring in a yoga person?
No, Delirious and Daisy were right into it.
Yeah, right. Well, I suppose like yoga would be a good way to sort of like loosen up and stuff like that, right?
Without exaggeration, I think at that point in time, particularly on one of the runs there, that was probably the best shape that I'd ever been in. So there was something in either the intensity of training or the types of stuff we were doing for training that were beneficial. But yeah, no, it was an experience.
But with you getting into wrestling, coming in, how did you break in originally? Like, where did you start out?
So there was a company in Liverpool. So I was telling someone this story the other day. I was playing, growing up, I played reps basketball. And then right in year 12 was when I sort of discovered rugby as well. And so I was doing both. And I was in first year of uni, and one of our mates that I played basketball with growing up had sort of invited myself and Billy Kay, her older brother, Jesse's older brother, Jacob, who I used to play with as well, to come down to wrestling because he knew that Jacob was a wrestling fan and I was kind of on the fringe there as well. And so I went down just thinking it'd be, I'll do it for a laugh. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's do it. So I went down and trained there for a little while. And to be fair, looking back on it now, it wasn't the best experience. It's not because I've been wrestling now 20 years. So there's been some benefits. Obviously, I stuck around, but not every. I didn't find the learning as not intense, but as in depth as I probably would have liked through whatever reason. And it was also very insular as well. So it was we had to stay there, and you could only work there, and you could only. And it was just you're young, dumb, and you're just sort of like, yep, sure, whatever. And then I went down the last year of uni. So I was there for a couple of years. And then my last year of uni, I went down to Melbourne to do my last prac. And that's how through Casey Jackson introduced me to Will Phoenix. Will Phoenix had just sort of said, oh, well, if you're going to go down there, you need to look up guys like Lobo. So I got in touch with Lobo and started training with PWA down in Melbourne. So that was with Jay Andrews, with Enforcer, with Lobo himself. Were sort of the three main trainers that I can remember. If I've forgotten someone, I do apologize. And then so I did a couple of sessions. They're like, "Sweet, do you want to be on some of our events?" And I was kind of at the time, I was like, "Nah, I'm pretty much been told I'm not allowed." And then by the end of, I was down there for about 3 months. And by the end of the 3 months, I'm like, you know what, F it. Yes, I'd love to be on a show. And I wrestled Crackerjack in my first non-WXA match, and I had fun. I don't know if he even registers on his list of experiences, but that was for me. That was important. And then. After that, it was pretty much like every month. I left when I came back to Sydney. I started working UWA, and then also started working CPW at the time with the Canberra Fed. And it was kind of almost like I still remember, like I'd go down on a Thursday night, do the Dragonfly shows on a Friday at PWA, do the Saturday, and then drive home on the Sunday. Or if we had a Canberra show on the Saturday, like there was a couple of weekends where we'd do Melbourne on Friday, Canberra on the way back on Saturday, UWA on Sunday. Not go to work or whatever on the Monday, because you're trying to, there's that sort of stuff. So
you're too beat up,
yeah. So but there were some awesome experiences in all of that as well, and I was sort of privileged to be around some pretty talented guys.
So you said WXA, that was run by Andy Harpus, right?
Yeah,
Or was
Sorry,
it
I
Hart?
name dropped that one. Yes, that was,
Oh, sorry.
I was like, probably shouldn't have name dropped it when I've been less than positive about my experience there. But look, like I said, it gave me a start, and I met some awesome people. Justin Cross, who's been around a while, is one of my best friends, and I'll get to hang out with him this Friday up in Queensland now. But so I met some awesome people, and I had some awesome experiences, but it just wasn't fulfilling enough. I think for me, it was it's always been aspirational in whatever I do. So.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I think, there's also levels of what people's priorities are for pro wrestling. Some people want to, invest all of their priorities to get to this, top level, and will do whatever it takes. And other people are like, you know what? This is a cool thing I do on the weekends. You know what I mean? Like and that's okay, man. As long as people are being safe, that's the main thing.
For sure.
But as far as you becoming a coach and started training people and creating PWA here in Sydney, what was the reasoning behind it? Was it because you guys wanted to saw what was happening in training and you thought you guys could do it better? Was it like you thought you guys could put a different perspective to training to offer to people? But what was the sole reason to create the training?
There wasn't so much a sole reason. So effectively, so I'm going to bore you with a long story here, Piers. Effectively, Warlock was running CPW at the time, and then he had to move to Perth for a job or something like that. And so Cross and I I don't know if it was drunken stupor or just again being young and dumb. We went, well, we'll take over for you, and so he kind of just handed the promotion to us. I have a very good relationship with Lobo. I'd been working doing a lot of the PWA in Melbourne shows, and I'd like to think that both Lobo and I have very, or at least at the time, I can't speak for his visions now, but at the time it was very much very aligned goals of what we'd like to make Australian wrestling. And it was in that sort of weird transition period at the time. And so because Cross and I had only been sort of really doing wrestling for about 5 years, looking back on it, probably we had an idea of how to do some things, probably needed some help doing other stuff. Lobo sort of said, look, why don't you become a PWA Canberra affiliate? I'll sort of mentor you guys, and you get sort of a bit of a rub by having the same sort of name. And like the benefit for Melbourne is they look like they're a bigger company and those sort of things. So it was mutually beneficial. Did that for a little while. And then because I was still in Sydney and Cross was in Canberra at the time, it became a little bit strange between the two of us because the division of labour wasn't even. Like he was doing a lot of the promotion and other stuff, and I'd come in to get to do all the Hollywood jobs, come in and help book and just be there for the shows and then drive back out again. So because there was a bit of frustration there, it was just not really working. Not even, we're going to keep PWA Canberra going, but I was going to just step aside. And then there was an opportunity for a PWA in Sydney. Other people were going to run that one. And then I'd sort of said, well, we'll get the ring, you pay us rent, and we'll just do an Eagles Wrestling Academy. Funnily enough, I still have a hoodie in my house from the original Eagles Wrestling Academy. So whoever made that one's done a great job because it's still holding strong 20 years later or 15 years later. So, and then right before the first PWA, it was a PWA Elite at the time show. The guy that was going to do it pulled the pin for whatever reason. I can't speak to that, and we kind of went, well, we've just bought a ring. We've just started this training school. Like we're kind of reliant on, these PWA shows in Sydney going ahead. And so we kind of took over, learned some good lessons along the way and had some fun and failed a bit here and there as well. So it wasn't always great. And then through personal reasons, stepped aside. It would have been about 6 or 7 years ago now. Probably about 6 years ago. And it's awesome to see that they've still just progressed. That it hasn't been relying on any one person. So to be fair, some of the stuff that they've been doing, I wouldn't have been able to do even if I was still involved. So it's been awesome to sort of see its evolution. But yeah, so it was by choice. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 training schools, but they weren't regular and they weren't, so it was probably at the time was the chance to sort of really sort of start to improve or set the standard the way that we envisioned it to be.
Yeah, because I think that there was a certain time where professional wrestling on an indie level, even like internationally, started to take the professional more seriously. And you started seeing guys going from wearing like tracksuit pants and tearaways in the ring to wearing actual gear, and, guys looking like that they could actually, take their head off, and, people that look like
Sure.
stars essentially, as opposed to guys who just look like they rolled off a couch and went, I can do that. You know what I mean?
Well, that was one of the takeaways that I got from WXA, and I know I haven't been as complimentary as I probably should, but they were always big on production values and like looking the part. And whilst the quality of wrestling could have been improved, that sort of stuff, those sort of lessons always sort of stuck with me as we went along, and I tried to instill some of those things in other people as time went on. I'm not going to say that I ever got it always right, but very much was something that sort of was, like having an entranceway and guys having at least some resemblance of gear, and not just like, those sort of things were important. And that's always stuck with me.
Yeah, well, I think the presentation is important, right? Like it's the main thing. It's like you could be a fantastic wrestler, but if you come out there looking like dog shit, are people still going to be invested?
I don't know. I'm testing that theory now, Piers.
But as far as like training and coaching people for wrestling, is that something that you miss?
Yes. No, definitely yes. Again, I feel my time with other stuff, but yeah, no, it's definitely something that I miss. And then one of the things that I for years have always thought about is how to take. I've done all these like rugby coaching courses. I ended up going back to uni and doing a master's in sports coaching. Apparently, I don't know how to work a headphones because I keep knocking it out of my ears. And I've always been sort of interested in how I can apply these contemporary coaching methodologies and the other stuff in the formal world into wrestling, which seems to be very just handing down stuff along the way. And emulating different sort of experiences that people have had in different sort of training schools. So, like I definitely love the challenge about it, sort of imply some of these more lessons from more of that formal coaching or sporting environments. I have, I've put my hand up to help with the guys down at Slam, but again, finding the time when I can be there and at the same time and those sort of stuff is definitely a challenge. And also, like Luke's doing some awesome stuff down there as well. So, I've also got to be cognizant of not stepping on his toes and those sort of things, because they're doing a great job, and sometimes they don't need me, coming in and butting in and putting my 2 cents in. But yeah, man, it's definitely something that I miss, definitely something that I would relish having an opportunity to do again. But the timing's also got to be right, so not between March and September, really.
No rugby training season.
Exactly.
It's it's interesting, like, because like, do you see guys like that you like coach in rugby and go, oh man, you'd be perfect for the business? Like you see guys that try and go, oh man, like you would just be so perfect for wrestling.
Yes and no, because there's been people that have got involved in wrestling and we're like, this person's not got what it takes, and then for some reason something sticks, and and this maybe doesn't quite fit into that mold, but like when we go back to that first ever when we first started that training school, I think we had 3 students when we first started Eagles Wrestling Academy. It was Jesse McKay, who's obviously gone on to do WWE stuff. It was a guy named Seth Rogers who got labelled the Golden Boy, and it was Ugg, and Ugg for a while was doing his thing, but didn't really catch on until he actually came back and started doing this Ugg gimmick, and now it's like, so it took a while for him. He was always physically capable of doing the stuff, but it wasn't until he actually like landed on that gimmick that really put him over the edge that he skyrocketed. And I mean, there's no difference in the quality of his wrestling from when he started doing Ugg from when he wasn't Ugg, but it just needed that little sort of extra thing to get him over. So I can look at some of these athletes in rugby and go, yeah, okay, they're in great shape, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to click and they're going to be able to go out there and put on a good event. Or it doesn't mean that the guys that maybe look a bit unco at first, or it just takes a little bit longer to catch on, aren't going to be great down the track,
Have you ever trained someone who's just picked up everything like straight off the bat and just gone, oh yeah, this is no problem at all?
Have you met Robbie? So
yeah, I have.
Yeah, so no, definitely, yeah. There has been people, and that you just kind of go, okay, wow, like, yeah, like Robbie is one of the first ones that comes to mind. I feel like, and I don't know if I'm just remembering through rose-colored glasses. Someone like Kyle Fletcher was great. I talked about Seth, whilst he physically could do all this awesome stuff, but then it never really sort of clicked as far as the wrestling side of things, and he's no longer in the business. And then we had some people that came in through the PRA Academy that had already sort of started to train other places, but then came in and refined and got along board with what we were doing. That I kind of go, wow, these people don't actually know how good they really are. One of the ones I was talking about someone the other day about how good Ahmed Iblis was when he came in, and how I was a huge fan and still am a huge fan of the stuff that he was doing. But to answer your question with a very simple answer, yes, there is people that have picked it up straight away and that have been awesome, and there's been people that get nicknames like Toby because they're useless as tits on a bull. Like there's been those sort of people as well. So there's definitely been some different characters that have come through along the way.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned Robbie just a minute ago as well. When Robbie came in and sort of like started using Eagles as Robbie Eagles, as he's known now, how was that gimmick sort of really created? Like, did he come to you and want to use the name, or was it like, did you christen him, say like that's going to be your name to start out with, is Robbie Eagles, and have a tag? Like, how did that all come about?
I don't know what you're talking about, Piers. That's on both of our birth certificates, is Ryan and Robert Eagles, and I won't hear otherwise. No, it was he'd started and was really good. But then also, like, I had the long hair at the time, and he had the long hair. We both got pretty significant cabooses, and someone kind of went, "Oh, that's a mini Doug," and then we kind of started joking around the fact that it was like having a little mini Ryan there, and then eventually, then it sort of clicked. I went, "Well, hang on, why don't we make this a thing?" People already are kind of sort of pointing out the similarities. Again, he's got a lot better memory than me, so he might remember it slightly differently. But that's sort of the gist of how it went down, I'm pretty sure. So that was kind of he ended up doing an event on it was in Ingleburn against Troy the Boy, which is still like one of those matches that was just different. But I look back on it very fondly. But it was he hadn't been training for very long, and we just threw him in the deep end, and he's gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, and he's one of those performers now where he's really on top of the world, and it's for someone who sort of were there at the ground up when he sort of like was starting to break in, you must be really proud of what he's accomplished so far.
100%. And that's sort of been probably one of my looking back and getting quite nostalgic and those sort of things. I look back on all those people sort of came through our training school, and there were some that had some success with us, and then went off and went into real life. And there's some others that actually went on to do some awesome stuff. You see Kyle over in England, you see Jesse and Cassie over in America with their stuff, and obviously Robbie doing his thing. And it's awesome to see those guys that were started with us and have gone on to have success. And then there's people like Mark Davis was up in Queensland, but would come and do some stuff with us, and now he's over there obviously killing it with Kyle as well. And we've been pretty lucky to have some pretty talented people that have sort of been in the room with at the same time. I still remember meeting Slex down at Peterborough, Melbourne, and getting him up to Sydney a few times. And I still talk to him about the fact that when I first met him, he was the golden boy down in Melbourne. But I still remember the first show I saw him was a ladder match with Lobo, and I was like, "You've got something, kid." I might have had a few crownies before I went up and spoke to him at that point, but I've been very lucky to cross paths with some very talented people.
Yeah, and I think as well, and I've said before, like many times, years ago, like I think Australians, breaking into professional wrestling, like to get that goal of WWE, I don't think was ever really, like, I don't know, like you tell me like what your opinion is, but like, was it never really obtainable? And then the last 10 years or so, when we've started seeing more Australians on WWE television, getting prominent spots on television as well, and not just being like the typical, Aussie sort of gimmick, but actually having like these, interesting gimmicks and storylines going through. Where do you think now younger people have a much more obtainable dream to get to WWE?
I gave up a long time ago trying to work out what WWE, what flavor they're into that month, right? So my aspirations was always something like New Japan, was always the mecca to me. And I remember having not an argument, but a borderline heated discussion with Mike Peterson one time backstage at an MCW show. And he's like, if you're not trying to get in WWE, what's the point? I'm like, there's more than just that out there, like that's never been my aspiration. At the time when I was looking at, like what's my future going to be in wrestling, like they only wanted guys that were 6'3" and above and had to be like juiced to the gills, and that was their type, and it's only, like you said, in the last 10 years they started to look at more of the independent wrestlers and bring them through. But then I don't know, like I couldn't tell you now. I see bits and pieces, and excuse me, I should have hit the mute button before I cleared my throat. But there's some guys now that are at WWE that I had a chance to sort of be involved with. Some of the guys that when I was in America that I'd like to call friends, and some of those guys, and some of them I wouldn't have even thought would have got an opportunity at WWE if you'd asked me when I knew them, not because of their abilities, but just because of their aesthetic. And then, so then I see different things and I go, I don't know if they're going back to, with all the smaller guys are now out and there's bigger guys come back through, and you go, okay, maybe they're going back to what it used to be. But I've just given up on trying to work out what they're doing over there. So,
yeah, well, it's one of those things where they keep changing, what they're looking for, I think, all the time. Like they go from, we'll hire all these indie guys. And now it's like, no, stop that. We don't want anyone to do with independent wrestling. We don't want anyone who's, trained to be a pro wrestler. And it's interesting because, like, I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a couple of people, and I said, it's like, as a parent, if my kid came to me and said, hey, I want to be a WWE superstar, the advice I'd have to give to him was, okay, look, you need to go get really good at football or another sport. But Dad, I want to be a pro wrestler. No. Get really, really good at that sport. Get to the highest level that you possibly can, and maybe they'll recognize you. Like, and then you get a developmental contract and then get released in 6 months. Like,
you're not wrong. Yeah. You've seen it how many times? So,
I mean, like, what's your thought on it?
Like I said, mate, I've given up on trying. To try and work it out, and so in the last 10 years, my attitudes to wrestling have been very different. So it's not like, so I'm not in that space of wanting to be there. So I have, but yeah, you're right. Like there's been a few times where I've been called up because of obviously my connection with football, and I was working at a rugby league high school and doing some stuff there before I'd got that rugby union opportunity. And to, I don't know, you said this goes out to America, they're going to be so confused that there is actually a difference between the two. But I'd get phone calls going, oh, do you know any ex guys that are going to be this big? They're going to be Polynesian, they're going to be this. And I'm pretty sure one of the times that I got a phone call ended up being now, like the person they ended up hiring was that, is it Daniel Vito? If I haven't pronounced his name wrong, if I pronounced his name wrong, I apologize. But yeah, so you see the trend now. It's just like, because they want their people, right? Like that's the way I interpret it. They only want guys that they can mold and train and do it their way. And yes, there is some advantage of bringing in other guys. And I'm happy to be wrong in this. I'm not precious about this opinion either. I'm just trying, if I ever had to try and work it out, like they want to have their stamp on things, but then there is some value in having guys that are already kind of cut their teeth and experienced performers as well. So who knows, mate? It'll change again in 3 months anyway. So.
Oh, exactly. It always does. But yourself, when you're over in the US, you did get to wrestle some pretty interesting names. Sammy Callahan and as one. What was it like working with Sammy? Because he's been pretty much everywhere and, seasoned veteran, really. How'd you find working with him?
Sammy was awesome. So my first ever match in America was against Sammy. We'd landed. I want to say we drove across to Philly, we got settled there, and then drove back all the way out to Ohio. I don't know why we did it that way, because we went to Chicago, out to Philly, and then drove back. And this is when my eldest was 2 years old. we got out to do this thing, and they went, "Oh yeah, you're with Sammy," and so I was like, "Sweet." And I'd driven the 16 hours across and realised I'd left my music back in Philly, so all I had, I think, in the car was like a Gwen Stefani and a Dora CD. I'm like, I wanted to come out to Dora, I wasn't allowed to. I had to come out to Gwen Stefani, and we had a pretty fun match, and we had very similar move sets. And then when I went back to Philly, he was just started working CZW at the time, and we got to do like. I think he'd sort of obviously vouched for me that I wasn't a complete hack, and we became friends, and so that was pretty cool. And I know it was in 2011. We were supposed to tag up and win the CZW tag titles, and I think I was intended to be the original Switchblade Conspiracy, and then that ended up being Joe Gacy and those guys. So,
Oh wow.
But like I still remember like coming home, I missed that opportunity, which was a bit of a bummer, but it was awesome to see those guys go on to into further success as well.
Yeah. Wow. You could have been part of the Switchblade Conspiracy. That was a pretty cool stable back in the day.
Look, I don't know how much I would have added to it, let's be honest. But it would have been cool to hang my hat on that one. Yeah, so I know that one. I still remember a match that Sammy and I tagged, and he knocked me out accidentally, and I woke up on the floor with Pinky Sanchez like slapping me on the back. But yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I've made some awesome friends over there. I can tell you that much.
Did you enjoy working for CZW?
I was never asked to do any of the crazy stuff. And I crossed paths with some pretty awesome people. Got to make some awesome friends and got to wrestle. I had some matches that I'm proud of. I had some matches that I would like to have back again and do better. But yeah, no, overall it was a pretty good experience, and it was probably the one that was giving me the most amount of most opportunity to get my name out there at the time. So I'm very much grateful for that.
How was DJ Hyde's booking? How did you find it?
It's a tough one. DJ's always been awesome to me. He's always I felt like I was looked after. I was kind of welcomed in and treated with some level of seniority there, because I was coming with some experience of promoting and training and doing all that sort of stuff in Australia. I have heard the horror stories though. I have, not horror stories. I've heard stories, but none of them ever really affected me. So it was I can't speak for other people's experiences, but I was in a situation where I was just keeping my head down and just trying to add as much value as I could and trying to make a name for myself. And I was given those opportunities. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, as far as, being over there, you also got to work with Mark Briscoe as well.
Yep.
From the Briscoes. Dude, to me, honestly, I think the Briscoe brothers are probably one of the most underrated tag teams in the last 20 years. In my opinion, I think they're great. How did you find working with Mark, obviously in a singles match compared to him being a tag guy? Did you enjoy the match with him?
Yeah, very much so. Like I said, I would have loved to have been there a bit longer and been able to sort of maybe have some return serve and have a few other opportunities to sort of show what I could do. But yeah, still grateful for the opportunity, and yeah, I have just as much fun doing matches like that as I did in the middle of, what do I say, it was out in Gettysburg or somewhere, wrestling a very, very new Shane Swerve back then when he was still very green, and so having matches with him, or having matches with guys that Tyler Veritas is one that I wish the match was better that we had, but having the opportunity with one of the guys that sort of took me in as one of my friends, and I got to have matches with these guys, and whilst they may not have gone on to superstardom, it was still awesome to be able to sort of share that space with them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What was your favorite match in your time in the US?
Oh, that's a hard one. It's going to sound like a bit of a cop-out answer, but I don't know if I have one. Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint one, to be honest with you. Whether that be through my poor memory or just that there were. I think back to more experiences and guys that I got to meet and be around, and like one of the guys that took me in and I still call a brother is guys like Adam Flash, who'd done all this stuff with WCW and other stuff and had been around and done a lot of stuff. And probably one of my fondest memories was the fact that someone like that, who had all this accomplishment, been around for 20 odd years, had kind of gone, all right, sweet, yep, you're on my level and you're going to, I'm calling you brother and you're riding with me and we're going to do this stuff. And, I think of some of the stuff that, sitting backstage and ribbing Alexander James, he's like, yep, he's our greenhorn now. So he's our rookie. Let's go. And it was kind of like, I love having those experiences where he was like, yep, you're an equal. You and I are going to go and we're looking after these guys and we're going to teach them how to do it. And, it's funny ribs before a show in Baltimore where, we'd always meet with Adam Flash. You'd always meet at the, Hooters. And so many at the Hooters, and where we told the waitresses that it was Adam McCall's birthday and made him stand on the stool while all the waitresses sang happy birthday to him. And then he made Alexander James run down because it's up on the second floor, it looks down to the harbour. It's kind of like Darling Harbour, but he looks down the harbour. Made him go across the road. There was a bike chained up on the pole and sit on it. And, not to be politically incorrect, fag tie shirt is what we called it. You'd put the shirt, in through the collar and, have that little sort of crop toppy looking thing. And, so, and then there's another time where he's trying to get him to put dip in his mouth and ribbon him with those sort of things. So I love those sort of experiences. I have very fond memories doing that sort of stuff. Or wrestling a tag match. It was myself and, I want to say it was myself and Adam Cole, and it could have been Veritas and maybe Gacy. And, we're doing the cheap heel spot with the abdominal stretch, and Adam Cole got it wrong and just giving him just absolutely pounding him for not knowing how to do an abdominal stretch, completely butchering it. And so stuff like that. I love those experiences. Sammy Callahan, that match with Sammy Callahan, that first one is probably significant for me because it was my first match over there. But yeah, so I don't know if I have a set, this was the match that
Sure.
I don't think I was there long enough to either have that sort of real signature match that sort of really put me on the map, as you say.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And for yourself now, with wrestling, what are your goals now in wrestling? Do you still want to achieve anything? Where would you want to go with it now?
Mate, I'm just having it, just doing it while my knees hold out and I can still have a bit of fun. And if one of those goes, whether I stop having fun or my knees completely give up, then I'll probably just fade off into the sunset again, mate. I'm just, I'd kind of stepped away, like I said, when I left PWA and just was not in the headspace to just be involved in wrestling at the time. Walked away and was quite content, never going back. And I was, telling everyone that I was retired, and I still in my head am semi-retired, But then it was kind of this few little opportunities came up, and I didn't even think my knees would hold out. So one of the first runs that I started to do, and this current one was with Osama, which when he was booking one of the other promotions, and it was really come in, get some heat on the mic, maybe do a quick little run-in spot, but don't think I was in a state to actually do any full matches. And I'm grateful for him for providing that opportunity for me. Because definitely got the itch back, and then did some training with the Slam guys, and my knees were starting to hold up a bit more. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see how I go. And I think my aspirations when I first accepted bookings to wrestle again was to do a couple matches in Sydney, see how my knees go, and then do some Slam stuff, and then just come in do shows every 3 months, and just do a show every 3 months, and until I'm no longer useful or I'm no longer having fun. So that's pretty much where my head's at, mate. And I know that sounds. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm not appreciating the spot that I'm in, and that I'm taking for granted that I might be taking someone else's spot on the card, and that's not my intention. But yeah, like I said, if I can keep adding value, if I can keep having fun, and my knees keep holding, then I think I'll do it for a little bit longer. I still have one or two matches that I'd like to have, but other than that, if I wasn't booked next weekend or moving forward, I don't think. I don't sit still long enough to really sort of think about it and get all in the doldrums about it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And you mentioned a couple of dream matches left for you. Like, what are your dream matches left?
I think it's the main one, and I say this anyone that asks me, my main one is with David Storm, and I'd like for reasons I'd love to have it in EPW. I don't think it would ever happen, but I would love the opportunity in my head. If you were say like, if I was able to book my own retirement match, say this time in 12 months, I'd love to be able to go back and do one last match in PWA. I'd love to have like myself and Robbie and Kyle and Davis, like those mates again would be a fantastic experience. For obvious reasons, I don't think that'll ever happen, but it still would be awesome. There are guys out there, like there's some young guys that I see that I'd love to have matches with, or at least be able to be involved in. Rig already knows, how highly I think of his work up in Newcastle.
Great work.
Yeah, I don't know about this current moustache situation, but other than that, no, he's very good. So there's the young guys like that around that I'd love to be able to sort of do some stuff with, and again, hopefully add some sort of value. There are, I'm trying to think, like they're the main ones, like the being able to sort of do that sort of stuff. I was fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago to wrestle Luke again, which would have been on my wish list. Luke Watts. And I'm hoping that I get the opportunity to do that again soon. And then I just see stuff now that I just think is fun. Yeah, like I said, my opinion of stuff is different to what it was ages ago. Whilst I still can go out there and do a poor man's Terry Funk Stan Hansen impersonation, I still like seeing stuff that's fun. Like I see these young guys out there now. Like I love the Fun Time Phil stuff in Melbourne, and I've already put him over on another podcast because I love Phil's work. I see one of the PWA guys that Cherry Stevens. I see some of her stuff, and I think like she's got something fun going on. So there's some really talented young guys and girls. I say that that are out there that I think that is awesome, and I may not necessarily be. I necessarily want to wrestle, but I definitely see what they're doing, and definitely think that what they're doing is pretty good, and I enjoy watching it. But yeah, so number one would definitely be David Storm, because we haven't had the chance over the 20 odd years that we've both been wrestling to cross paths. It almost happened once, but didn't. And then, like I said, that one last time with Robbie and Davis and Kyle would also be awesome.
Yeah, no, that'd be amazing to see. And
that's from Australian guys, at least.
And in PWA, that'd be great. What about internationals?
Robbie knows this one. I would love to wrestle Tenzan, just because he had the best / worst hair in wrestling for so long. But I think he's even retired now too. Other than that, like I was a big fan of a lot of the older stuff. So a lot of the people that I either tried to emulate or really liked are either no longer with us or no longer wrestling. So it's there's definitely not too many people, even internationally, that I can sort of point to and say, yes, that definitely that person is the one that I think that I would be able to still go out there and have a good match with, or just enjoy doing it. Like I said, Tenzan's even retired, but I keep telling Robbie every time he goes back to New Japan that maybe that's just tell him come out in retirement for one match. with a nobody that means absolutely nothing to him, but it's just for my own benefit. Yeah,
no, let's get it done. But do you still have the time to watch wrestling? And like when you do watch wrestling, like can you still appreciate it from being a fan before you broke into it, and now being a veteran of 20 years? Like can you still sit down and enjoy watching wrestling?
Not really. I know that sounds a bit of a I don't mean to sound negative in it. It's a like I said, I follow on with what Robbie and Kyle and Davis are doing. Even some stuff that I see Jonah's doing, like I'll follow on those guys, and I want to cheer them on, and I want to see them succeed, because they're guys that I think are just good people that just deserve those opportunities. But I couldn't sit there and watch a show. If I was to watch a show now, I would go back and watch like early 90s WCW, when they still had that massive long ramp, and the original Clash of the Champions and those sort of things, or just a lot of earlier New Japan stuff. Couldn't tell you too much of the current stuff. But again, it's because I'm time poor, and because my head's in a very different space than what it was. Like, I used to watch it religiously because I was taking notes and trying to prepare stuff for training sessions. So I'd go through these weird phases, just watching different people. Because I felt like I had an obligation to constantly try and come up with new stuff or new old stuff a lot of the time. Like stuff that was almost like forgotten, and trying to bring it back. So it was very similar to what I'd probably do now, as far as like all the film review and stuff that I was talking to you about before offline around with rugby. Like, that used to be my preoccupation. It'd be every night, and I usually fall asleep with it going. And now it's not the same. Like, I'm not in the same space. I'm not in the same, like, I don't have the same motivations for it. So now it's just, I'll just catch bits and pieces of stuff that I find enjoyable. And then, if something pops up or someone shares something, I'll go out of my way to make sure I sort of watch it. And then there's these people, like, and there are these people out there that are doing some really awesome stuff. And I like, again, I'm in a different space now. I don't have to be trying to teach and be critical and try and upskill, like a team, for lack of a better term. I can just sort of sit back and just let people do their thing and just appreciate it for what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like, now there's so much wrestling available, for people to watch online and stuff. It's like sitting down and watching Netflix and go, oh, let's find a movie, and just scrolling through it for 45 minutes. I find I do that with wrestling, like on independent wrestling TV. I'm like, what am I going to watch? Chikara? Or it's like, yeah, I can't sleep, but I really want to watch Chikara 2009. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much of it out there that it can sort of appease everyone. But again, it's like, to sit down and find 3 hours to watch Monday Night Raw every week. It's like, I've got 3 kids, man. I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? Like, there's
mate, even if I had time for it, I don't think I would put myself through that every week now. When they went to 3 hours, it just became a lot of fluff.
But even pay-per-views being like 5-6 hours, it's like, it's to a point. It's like, who's got 5 or 6 hours to invest in their day to sit down and watch television? Like,
and that's once a month, isn't it? Isn't it like that's, or is that, are they even more frequent than that?
Yeah, that's monthly, I think. Pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Pass on that. Yeah. But it is that time for 60 Seconds with Piers. How this works, ladies and gentlemen, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, I'm going to ask Mr. Eagles a bunch of random questions. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many as he can. Ryan, you ready to get
lucky about last 60 seconds? No.
You ready to get the game started?
Oh, look, all right. I'm a bit nervous, but yeah, we'll do it. Would I win the new car or something?
Oh, we'll see it. We'll see how you go. All right. First up, if you could ask Vince McMahon one question, what would it be?
Oh, shit. Can I have some money?
Would you rather appear on Home and Away or Neighbours?
Well, Neighbours is no longer anymore, so it'd have to be Home and Away because it's the only thing that's still going, right?
There you go. Yeah, that's true. Which reality show would you rather appear on, Survivor or The Amazing Race?
Amazing Race. I like a good challenge, like, and working out those puzzles and stuff. That'd be good.
What is the funniest thing to happen to you recently?
I don't know. Can I pass?
You can pass.
Yeah, I'll pass because I can't think of anything right now.
If you were given a lion as a pet, what would you name it?
A lion as a pet. Look, Mufasa, and hope that he doesn't die.
Favorite Australian place to visit?
I quite like where I live now in the bush. I would probably say Melbourne because that's where I grew up.
Name a gross meal combo that you like that no one else does.
A gross meal combo?
Yep.
I'm a really fussy eater, so people laugh at me when I take off stuff. Like, I don't like raw tomato or cucumber and other stuff. So I'll take a normal meal and then just take all the stuff out that people like, just because I don't want to eat it.
Fair enough. And last one, in 5 minutes, you're being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
Oh, all right. Oh, man. I don't know. I'm not even that, like, I know I'm just looking at my cupboard and I can see my clothes, but I'm not even that materialistic. Like, I'd take my pair of RMs because, like, you can't take a rugby boy away from his RMs. And then maybe like my my laptop? Or do I have access? Like, does it have a screen on there? Like, can I watch stuff while I'm out there in outer space? Like,
Of course.
so I don't need to take my laptop because I already.
Well, you can take
yeah, I don't know. Pen and paper. Maybe at the moment I've been reading a lot of books on my iPad, so maybe that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they're good questions, mate. I'll give you that.
There you go.
I don't know if it warrants a cheer at the end, please.
We give everyone the cheer, mate. Everyone deserves a cheer for playing along. But Ryan, where can everyone find you on social media, bud?
Nowhere. I got rid of all my social media. I stick to myself. Like, you kept tagging me one of my pages, and I'm just like, mate, this has got nothing to do with wrestling. This is just pictures of my kids. Like, it's yeah, I'm pretty what would you call it? Anonymous, inconspicuous. I don't know. I'm just not in that headspace, mate. I don't have time to update all like social media and do it proper. There are some people out there doing some amazing stuff on socials. Like I think I said to you before, I think the only time I really get to do that is when I'm on the can, procrastinating at work, or trying to, just getting to bed at night. So I don't do too much posting other than, like I said, memes or pictures of my kids, and that's about it, really. And then lots of tweets about the rugby when that's on, so as well. So if you go back through my Twitter, it's all about me just whinging about the England Wallabies game the other night.
There you go. Well, look, guys, thank you very much, Ryan, for being on. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Make sure you go and check out our sponsors, healthape.com and sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPod. And we'll definitely try and get Mr. Ryan Eagles back on for a part 2 very, very soon. But, guys, make sure you keep an eye out for social media to see who's going to be on my show next. We've got some exciting names coming up. But, guys, till then, we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.